Beans. Welcome to King of the Bean. I'm Ian, this is Josh, and this is Ryan.
I'm Ryan. Hi.
I'm Josh.
So the premise of this show is that each week we will decide a King of the Bean who sits in the lovely Bean King throne chair, and the king gets to decide the topic of conversation for this particular episode.
And the way that we're going to determine who picks the topic of the week is through our little bean dispensary here. Each person is going to call out a color for that week, and whichever color comes out more is going to be the king of the bean for the week.
Hello, Beans.
Hi, Beans.
Hi.
Welcome back to another episode of King of the Bean. I'm Ian, this is Ryan, and this is Josh.
Hi.
Hi.
And let's get to it. Let's decide who's the new king. I've had my reign of 2 episodes. Will I continue?
We have not agreed on term limits yet. I think it's funnier if somebody does it 7 times in a row by pure chance.
Okay, pick a color.
So we'll see. I pick
Orange.
brown, purple, whatever that one is.
Brown, purple.
Grape.
Grape.
Is that what?
I will pick green.
Wow.
Is that brown to you?
Brown is purple, yeah. Why did you get so many?
Because only one came out of the first one.
Okay.
I mean, that could have been the deciding factor one.
Alright. I'm guessing that one was not one of our
Yeah,
colors.
it was none of the colors.
Alright.
So remind me what your colors were?
Purple, orange.
Okay, so we have 1 pink.
Neither. It's closer to orange.
We have a white-ish.
That's every color.
White? What do you mean white? That's like light orange. White?
I
Go on.
Yellow.
Uh-huh. Which is just orange in a lighter tone.
Yellow.
Uh-huh. I think Josh wins.
Orange.
That is orange.
That is orange.
And a purple.
Hey, okay,
you're
so
part of it.
are you gonna consider those oranges?
Those aren't orange to me.
Okay, so then it's 1-1. Me vs.
Oh.
Josh.
No, it's fine. The sign looks good at that angle.
Does it?
Yeah.
Like that? Really?
Yeah, honestly, you see a lot better.
Oh, okay. All right.
It all
Okay,
worked out.
round 2. Same colors?
Yeah,
Sure.
well, you can't change now. We're 1-1. Yep.
You know what? Who do you decree?
Oh no, it's
Okay.
green, it's not purple.
Alright.
1 green, but I'm out of the running.
Uh-huh.
Well, you're still in the running.
No, he's out of the run.
2 pink.
I decree it.
2 pink. 2 white. Oh, these are
Those
white,
are
right?
I saw. Yeah,
White.
those are white. Those
They're
are...
extra.
And an orange.
Oh, nice.
So Josh wins.
Yay! I have.
We're.
Well, that's how you.
All
break
right.
the
Well,
crown.
now 2 of them are broken
Wait,
off entirely.
why'd you let that happen?
Why did I let that happen?
Yeah.
Not intentionally.
You
Go on. Finish your thought.
have to be careful with it.
Yeah, we all do.
You were in possession of the crown.
I understand that. Listen, you guys had a crack at it. I decided I needed my ring too.
I needed to one up both of them
Yeah.
and snap 2 of them off.
Yeah. You act like I did that on purpose.
He didn't do it on purpose. It was an accident.
You didn't try to prevent it though.
He didn't see it. And you know what?
Let's just not have that here on the crown.
As I was saying, we were workshopping using surrogates as the king, but I feel like...
See, now if you were to just take off these 2 pieces, it'd be like a whole tiara situation.
Yeah, I think you did your crown wrong, basically, is what Josh was trying to say. Alright, newly anointed king,
It's fine.
usurper of the throne, what would you like to discuss today?
That is a good question. You know what I was thinking about the other day?
What were you thinking about?
Probably a good conversation piece. Is, do you guys remember, like, back in the day, all the, like, colorful, like, cereals and candies that we used to have? And how they're just not the same as they used to be?
No.
Yes.
You don't?
No.
You don't remember, like, what is it? Which was the one with the toucan?
Fruit Loops?
Fruit
Is Fruit Loops?
They still have
Yeah.
Fruit Loops.
I understand that, but Fruit Loops used to be in the actual shape of the fruits. And now
No, they did.
and now
Yeah,
they're
no.
just circles.
Back in the beginning, it was, but then they were changed to Fruit Loops, and
Yeah.
then they became Loops.
Yeah.
I never had a fruit. I only had the loop.
Loop. How would you spell Fruit Loop as the in the cereal box?
It's OO.
It is a fruit.
On the box. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure it's because it's Fruit Loop.
Yeah.
And it's not real fruit, and they can't advertise that.
Exactly. Yeah. There's this whole thing that I was watching.
I don't think the fruit snack company got that memo because that's not real fruit either.
Oh, it's made with like
artificial.
0.2% fruit juice.
So
That's
it's
not
basically
real fruit.
It's
That's
basically.
Whereas
not.
there's 0 fruit juice in a Fruit Loop.
Yeah.
0.2% is not much better than 0.
Yeah.
That's,
We were like going through the. We went to Aldi's the other day. And we're like looking through all the. We went through like the cereal section. I was looking at all these cereals. Like, wow, I remember a lot of these back in the day, and they are just so different from what they were before. And it just hit me with like a wave of like nostalgia, but also like, why is this different than how I remember it to
do
be?
Gushers still exist?
Yeah, I think so. There's this whole thing on TikTok about
The
that.
Spooter's back.
Is it? Is it yours?
Apparently.
Oh.
Unless you bite me and make me Spider-Man, please leave.
Please leave. Survive. Live.
Yeah.
Live through us all.
Live another day.
Do you
So
guys
what is the topic?
nostalgia? What do you remember?
Nostalgia.
Like
Yeah, what brings you
specifically
nostalgia?
food related.
It could be anything. Just it just hit me with the wave of nostalgia.
Today, what brought me nostalgia was 2000s country music.
You did have a whole moment of
Growing up, we primarily listened to like classic rock and then country.
It was
Of the
AC/DC, Aerosmith, Guns N' Roses,
Rascal Flatts,
yeah, Shania Twain, Montgomery Gentry.
all the country.
Carrie Underwood,
Yeah.
Big and Rich.
So it was very kind of opposing sides of the same coin, I feel like.
Except some,
Bon Jovi.
I feel like some country had a lot of influences of rock too.
Mhm.
Sure. How's that even anything does?
Absolutely. Well, Montgomery Gentry was very like kind of country rock, right? Rascal Flatts is very kind of country rock in a lot of ways.
It's good.
Brooks and
Life
Dunn
is
is
a
very
heaven.
country rock as well.
See, you guys talk about those country music, and in my head, like the only thing that really brings me like nostalgia, that's like music wise, is like old school like video games.
Oh, soundtracks.
Soundtracks, like you hit me with the Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time soundtrack, where they just hit the beginning like do 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 do, and it's like
Oh, for me, it's like I know Super Mario Galaxy was not as long ago as like classics.
I mean, that's still 2008. That was long
But yeah,
enough
it was
ago.
like 15 years ago. Every time I hear it, I'm just brought back. It's like.
I mean, Super Mario Sunshine.
I am
Delfino Plaza, still one of the best soundtracks. Any Pokemon music,
yeah.
like
Hit it with the Pokemon Generation music from the show.
But even any of like the video game soundtracks from like the Kanto region or the Johto region,
Or even the theme song of the TV show for the first two. So good.
So good. So
bringing it
good.
back. That's
What would you say had like the best like the most memorable intros in like TV shows back in the day?
Pokemon.
I mean, Pokemon is definitely one of them.
I would put Yu-Gi-Oh.
I was
there.
thinking Yu-Gi-Oh.
What is the Yu-Gi-Oh sound?
It's time to do.
And then it was just
What happens
instrumental.
after that?
It was just instrumental.
It was instrumental. Yeah.
And then it was just going through like
But
ancient
you
Egypt.
best believe when you hear someone say it's time to, your immediate thought is do. Exactly. Yeah. There's nothing that brings up a more like guttural, like instinctual thought back than that. Then you know the Pokemon.
The Teen Titans theme song.
TEENTITANS Teen Titans. Let's go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's amazing.
Such a Puffy Yummy Yumi.
Yeah, such a great theme song.
On a side
in
note.
English and Japanese.
It was. On a side note, I recently got a new coworker.
Mm-hmm.
Her name's Yumi.
Oh, cute.
Yeah. And we're gonna get another one like come July or whatever. Not related to
Called Ami.
Yeah, if only. Her name's like Kayano or something like that.
Oh,
so
that's
you know
not the
it's
same.
close.
Well,
If you added some other
add some letters, take a few
some
off.
out. Yeah, exactly.
Pass them
Basically.
down.
Take one
No,
down.
you have his new coworker's name.
Anyways.
Uh-huh. We're with you, man.
You're not, and that's not okay.
But I you know, it's funny. I was talking to my buddy about nostalgia the other day, because like a lot of movies recently in the last like 10 years lean heavily into the nostalgia factor.
Oh yeah.
Right, everything's a remake, everything's a repeat. We're not even gonna get into Star Wars, but like Force Awakens is just a nostalgia machine. All it is a remake of New Hope.
New Indiana Jones.
Like everything's nostalgia. And I was talking
Little
to him.
Mermaid.
All the Disney live action remakes.
Just trying to...
Please don't make Lilo and Stitch live action, Disney,
Wait,
if you're listening.
okay, side tangent.
I don't know why I'm screaming over there.
I don't know why you are either. But I'm gonna finish my story, but I don't know if this is real. But did you see what Stitch looks like?
Oh yeah, it's like this weird...
gross little axolotl abomination.
Yeah. I don't think it's real. I don't think so.
Because I saw somebody that's like, we have a new Sonic the Hedgehog.
Can we bully Disney like we did?
I don't know if it's real, but I saw it.
I don't think it's real. Here, whoever's editing the video, put it right here.
Oh yeah, okay. I'll put whoever's editing as if there's options here. It's me. I'll put it there. I'll find it for you. But
this ugly thing?
Yeah, the ugly like axolotl gremlin.
It doesn't even have fur.
It doesn't.
It's an abomination.
And that's what Stitch's whole thing is like. I'm so cute, I'm fluffy.
I stand by the term abomination. But yeah, I don't know if it's real or not, but I saw
Disney, don't do it.
They're already doing it.
Don't do it.
I think
over there. Don't do it.
I'm pretty sure it's fake though.
I don't want them to do it anyway.
Okay. Well, if it's fake, that means they're not.
No, I mean like the whole live action, not just this Stitch.
Okay. Sure.
Like don't ruin Lilo and Stitch.
It's gonna happen.
They're
gonna ruin it.
Don't.
They're slowly
Disney.
going down
because they're not smart enough to do like the lesser known Disney movies that would actually make good live action movies like Treasure Planet or Atlantis or even Emperor's New Groove. I think could be pretty good, even though the whole llama might be weird.
Yeah, that would be a little bit
but like Atlantis, Hercules even.
Hercules would be perfect.
Those are made to be
Danny
live
DeVito's
action
still
movies.
alive.
Those
we
are
have perfect
made
muses
to be live action movies, and they're like, nah, we're not gonna touch those.
No.
We're gonna do all the animal movies. We're gonna freaking do Lion King, which is an all animal cast, which is not live action if it's just CGI. That's not what that means at all.
Well,
no, they had real lions, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
They taught them how to
real
talk.
computer generated lions.
No, they didn't teach them how to talk. They
already knew.
They just.
Lions just don't want to talk.
Not where I was going. I was gonna say no. They just film lions doing their thing, and then they put like Beyonce's voice on it.
Was Beyonce in Lion King?
Yeah,
she was.
Was she actually?
That was like one of the biggest. The Lion Queen.
Yeah.
That was one of the biggest like marketing points was Beyonce.
Yeah.
Wasn't she in some other movie that's like off of what's that one game where you have to tell them it's like, okay, my ship's in this section. Battleship. Wasn't she also in Battleship?
Never saw it. Because again, couldn't care less.
Oh, okay. Well, I just remember hearing something about Beyonce being in Battleship, and in my head I'm just like, so she's just saying like A4 and then hitting or missing.
I hope so. She's just the director of the battleship.
Yeah.
And she only comes on screen when they're getting ready to go to war, and she's just like A14, and then you see a missile.
See, I thought it was Rihanna in that.
And then somebody in the background's like,
What do you say?
See, I was thinking it was Rihanna in that movie, and it was Rihanna.
It was Rihanna?
Yeah, so how dare you?
I don't know people.
Dude, I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm with you. But anyway, I want
Also, Liam Neeson.
Who?
Liam Neeson.
Really?
Who?
Liam Neeson.
What has he been in?
Qui-Gon Jinn, Ra's al Ghul, and Batman Begins.
Ra's al Ghul, got it.
Okay.
Taken.
Oh, okay. Okay. This is a very serious thing.
I have a particular set of
You can
skills.
tell me any name of a person, I will not genuinely know who you are talking to.
It's pretty accurate.
And so you have to explain to me the description or something that they've been in that I may or may not know.
Liam Neeson.
Yeah,
I have like a bug bite on my leg.
It's the speeder.
Cool, dude. Anyway, going back to my
I'm becoming
story.
a spider.
That's
You
not.
wish.
I don't know.
This ain't the alternate universe.
Right. But I was talking, anyway, going back to my story, I was talking to my buddy and just talking about how, like, nostalgia doesn't really do it for me. Like, I'm not interested in things because they're nostalgic. Like,
No?
no, not really. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Or, like Pokemon games I'll play again because I'm like, oh, that's cool and, like, it's nostalgic. But
But that's how they get you, though, isn't it? Like, that's how... That's
yeah, but, like, okay, so
nostalgia.
the example, because him and I have talked about Star Wars a lot, especially, and I think that's a good example, is Force Awakens. I don't think it's a good movie. right? And a lot of people are like, oh, well, it's nostalgic, and they did it because, you know, they want to get people back into Star Wars and get the old fans, so it's familiar, and then have new characters. But it's the same movie as A New Hope. It's not like it's a different movie that brings in characters for cameos or whatever. They didn't even do a good job with the characters they brought back in the whole sequel trilogy. We're not going to go on this tangent because that's a whole episode of itself. But the fact that, like, it's all it is nostalgia. Right? There's no substance to it other than it's nostalgic. And that's not interesting to me. That's a cool spice to put on top of a product, a movie, a game, or whatever. It's like, oh, it touches on nostalgia. Oh, it's cool. Oh, I remember that when I was a kid or whatever. But to me right now, that's not a selling point. And that's not what I'm interested in. And it's, it's nostalgic. And he told me, because he's just going to finish my story real quick. Because he's older than me. We'll just say that. I'm not gonna blast him, but no, David. He's older than me, and he's like, once you get into like your 30s, like your mid 30s, he's like, then nostalgia starts hitting differently. And he's like, because I was the same
mid 30s
at least. But
I mean, I already feel like nostalgia hits me because it brings back like similar emotions, and it's usually stuff that, like, you know, made you happy when you were a kid.
Yeah, and there's ways to do it well. Like the perfect movie that I feel like did really well with nostalgia, Incredibles 2.
Yeah,
Incredibles 2 hit on everyone's like nostalgia of like reliving the whole Incredibles movie all over again, but adding their own, like, another story.
Well, because I don't think it wasn't based on nostalgia. It was like, oh, we finally got to part 2 of this thing.
But they use nostalgia in bringing in a lot of people.
But I was saying, like, because I think they did nostalgia well in Episode 7 of Star Wars. If it was good by itself, and it was a good, like, reintroduction of the franchise, being like, Disney, we're gonna take it back to its roots, because a lot of people didn't like the prequels. Well, joke's on you, because people prefer the prequels to the sequels. But I think it was a good, like, reintroduction to the franchise and to build things up. As long as 8 and 9 were solid, 7 would look better later.
I agree with
8 and 9 were terrible movies, so looking back on 7, you're like, okay, you set it up, but for what? Like, those characters didn't go in any of the ways you thought they were going in 7.
Yeah.
8 ruined everything, and Carrie Fisher died, so unfortunately that was her last movie. And then 9 was just like, oh, what the fuck?
No, and I agree with that, and I think, and because I remember even talking about it after we saw the movie and being like, it was fine, even though it was essentially a shot-for-shot remake of New Hope, almost actually a shot-for-shot remake. Like, it's basically the same movie. I know you haven't really seen the Star Wars movie, so you don't know, but it's
clearly know a lot about this.
It's almost the same as the first Star Wars movie that was ever made. And, like, that's fine because I get what they were doing, right? I get it was to appeal to the older crowd as, oh, this is familiar, you know, it's cool to see this again, but in a different way. Although, to me, again, that's, like, uninteresting, right? Because the whole premise of the original trilogy, right, is the rebels, this small, you know, little band of people fighting against the big empire, right? Mm-hmm. The galaxy empire. And then we fast forward essentially 40 years or whatever, and it's still the same situation, apparently. It's still a small band of rebels that we call the Resistance now, but is the same thing, fighting the big galactic empire, which is the First Order, which is the same thing. Like, nothing has changed in that time. So it's not like it's just nostalgia to be like, oh, this is familiar, you know, we're restarting, and essentially we're doing something further on, but we want to rope in the people who grew up with this and who are familiar and who like the original trilogy and let them know that there's something familiar here, but also we're going to have a different story because it's literally the same story. See, nothing has changed in that timeline.
But they did do things different. I wouldn't say shot for shot. I feel like that's a disservice to the movie.
We start off on a desert planet with an orphan raised by, I mean, she's raised herself, unlike Luke, who was raised by his family, but whose then home gets destroyed, and she goes on the Millennium Falcon and flies off said desert planet to go join a band of rebels, or resistance now, to go destroy a big thing, that the weak point of the big thing is the same weak point as the big thing in the other one. Like, it's literally the same movie. The main points of the movie are the exact same main points. So it's like, it's not even just nostalgia. It's the fact that it's the same thing. And yes, the characters are different, but I don't want to. I mean, is it spoiler alert at this point for the first one?
It came out 6+ years ago.
Okay, an important mentor figure dies in the same point in the movie, in the original movie, as an important mentor figure dies in the same point in the new movie. Like, it's literally the same beats of the story happen at the exact same points in time in almost the same capacities.
I mean, but you could say they do that about a lot of different movies, because there's like a formula to movies.
Right, but that doesn't make it a good movie then.
No.
And if that same formula is wrapped around just with nostalgia to be like, oh, this is fun, then that's not interesting to me. And other people have different opinions. And again, I also agree that if the subsequent movies had been better and had taken what they put out in 7 and drawn on that and made Finn an interesting character and made Rey an interesting character and did something with Poe and built out these new characters they built in their own unique ways, that would have been fine. It would have been a fine way to start it because I understand using nostalgia for that purpose.
Yeah.
But if you're not going to do anything with it and it's just nostalgia and it's just the same movie, then that's not interesting to me. Mm-hmm. And I also know I'm more critical than a lot of people, and that's fine. I accept that. But that's just my opinion.
It's true.
It's true.
I know what I like.
It's true. He does know what he likes.
And I don't like boring movies that make it seem like they're supposed to be interesting.
No, but I feel
substance there.
I feel like that's the issue with a lot of movies in general. Like they follow the same formula because it's like the if it's not broken, don't fix it kind of situation. But then that doesn't go anywhere.
Right. I mean, following a formula doesn't fit creative things because you're supposed to be different.
It's supposed to be different.
It's supposed to be different, but you still follow a guideline essentially.
I mean, most things are like, that's the thing, right? There's no new story essentially, right? Everything's been kind of written. Most of the ideas have been done to some extent. So the point of creativity is to innovate on them. And you can use similar beats. You can have similar... There's a lot of similar stories, right? Even Star Wars itself is not an original story. It's based on the man of myth legend, right? And it hits the same beats as any story based on that kind of coming-of-age hero story. They're all the same story, but it's how are you going to innovate on that and make it feel different, whether you have the same points or not, right? So it's not just about the main pieces are the same. It's what is around it that makes it feel different and exciting and new. And if there's nothing there and it is just the same thing, then you have kind of failed in making a unique product. And a lot of people don't do that. But I think a good example of companies that do that is like Nintendo with games, particularly Legend of Zelda, right?
Sure.
Because Legend of Zelda has been around for...
Since 1994.
Since 1994. They've been around for a long time. I think longer than that. Because N64?
Yeah.
At least? NES? I don't know. They've been around for a long time. There's been a lot of Zelda games. But there's a lot of different Zelda games. And yes, the story is generally the same, right? Link is the hero. He loses everything. He gets everything back. Yeah. He gets the Master Sword. He defeats Ganon. Princess Zelda's in the background helping out passively. 1986.
Wow.
But look at how many different iterations there has been. You have the original ones on the N64 that's very top down, right? And they adapt with the times. You have the 3D ones, like the Twilight Princesses and the Skyward Swords and stuff like that. You have the cartoony ones, the Wind Wakers and your Phantom Hourglasses and that whole side of things. You have open world ones now with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom that all, yes, follow similar beats, almost exact same stories, but what is around those stories and how they tell those stories are different in different ways. You have Majora's Mask, which is like a 3-day timeline that you keep replaying over and over again, right? You have Ocarina of Time, where you go forward and back in time. You have A Link to the Past, where you go forward and back in time in different capacities, right? So it's telling a similar story, but it's how they tell that story and the way around that story that they form this world that is different. They keep innovating on that, and I think that that's a great way to address nostalgia. Is like, okay, here's characters you know, here's a story you know, but we're going to tell it in a little different way. We're going to do things a little different. We have different mechanics. We have different, different parts of it that make it feel like recognizable, but it's not playing the same game over and over again.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, I get you. Got any notes on that?
Huh?
Got any notes on that?
Do you?
I just wanted to see if you wanted to say something.
No, it's more stuff to say about Star Wars, but I forgot because Ryan kept rambling.
It happens. It happens. There's a lot of things that I don't know if this is necessarily a nostalgia thing, but like anime follows like a very similar format with a lot of things.
Yeah.
And there are things that happens in anime a lot that every time you see it's like that's such a I guess it's a trope really.
Trope,
at
yeah.
that point. Not a nostalgia thing. But it's become like such a thing that you recognize when this thing happens and it just hits something in your head, your brain chemicals, you're just like, oh, this is gonna be awesome. What I always like to refer to is with Naruto, when Rock Lee is fighting Gaara for the first time and he drops his weights and it just like, it's just weights, it's nothing, and then it plows up with a big gust of wind because all of a sudden you realize it's like 500 kilograms or something like that, and you're just like, what? And then he goes into an intense fight and you're like, yes, it's such a stupid thing, but it's so cool.
But what's also really cool about that, spoiler alert, is
he loses.
He loses still, right? And he was the good guy in this situation, right? Like, he's the weird guy. He fights Sasuke first, right? And everyone's like, oh, he might actually be good. And then he's fighting Gaara, and he's, like, losing. And we're like, oh, man, but he's, like, the good guy character here. You know, is he going to actually lose? And then he drops his weights, and we're like, oh, shit, dude. Like, and then he still loses. And I think that was fantastic writing on that part. Not because I dislike Rock Lee, because Lee's a great character that, again, falls in the category in Shippuden of characters that we just dropped off and no one cared about anymore. But he was a great character, but main characters losing does not happen often.
It doesn't.
Especially in, I mean, not but even especially
there's a tasteful way to do it, too.
Exactly, and that was a great way to have a main character, or a good guy main character lose. And that hyped up Gaara, who is also a great character and continued to be in Shippuden in a lot of ways, which is cool, but made him very intimidating because, like, oh, this guy, he did his power up, he looked awesome, he did really cool, and then he still lost. Yeah. Barely, though. Like, he almost got Gaara a few times.
He did most,
but he still lost. Yeah, and then that was awesome because it's like, oh, he lost. After all that, he still lost.
After he dropped those weights and that gust of wind. It looked so dumb, but it was so cool.
Like all the gates.
He did like a few of them, right? Because he was still training. But like that was such a cool moment. I think that's one of the highlights of the original Naruto series is the Rock Lee versus Gaara fight.
And that's what I'm saying. Like too, it's like other animes do that too, and each time it always hits that part of my brain. It's like, oh, stuff's about to go down. It's such a like. Reoccurring trope that just hits you with like that wave of like nostalgia. It's like, oh, this is gonna be awesome. This is gonna be great.
Yeah, well, because that's what that's supposed to do, right? It's like, oh no, we're losing. This guy's too powerful. What are we gonna do?
Power up.
But then power up, and then overcome, and that's a huge trope, right? Yeah. But rarely do they lose. Yeah. But when they lose, that's great. I feel like, as long as it serves the story, because it's interesting and it's not the same thing. It's not following the trope. It's addressing the trope, but then you have a different outcome, which is good storytelling.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Any other things that hit you with nostalgia? We've been rambling.
Yeah, Ian, would you like to participate?
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know. I was trying to think of...
Well, because you were saying earlier that you do feel affected by nostalgia. So aside from the country music we were listening to in the car, what kind of things?
I mean, the other thing is just like anime openings that I watch.
Oh,
anime openings.
Like all the classic Naruto anime openings, like they just make you feel good and like hyped, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of them were like hype music for the show.
Asian Kung Fu Generation and Go are great bands.
You sit down and you're ready to watch, and that's like Fighting Dreamer, and you're like, yeah. Or like the SAO opening song will always have a place in my heart, just because.
I don't remember it either. One Piece has some great.
It's called Crossing Fields by Lisa, I believe.
Okay.
But
I know I've heard it.
But every time that comes on, it just reminds me of a better time.
I agree. I hear on the topic with like anime interest, I bring up that nostalgia feeling. It's have you guys ever watched Yu Yu Hakusho?
No.
It's an old 90s anime.
I've heard good things about it.
Very much of its time. It's slow. I've looked back into it. It's kind of slow. But
Really?
But that is just 90s animes in general. But that anime intro hits up. It hits me with that jazz. And I'm just like, ooh, every time I'm just ready to go like, ugh.
Speaking of great jazz openings, Cowboy Bebop.
Yes.
Have you seen Cowboy Bebop?
Yes.
I know you haven't, Ian. Have you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Fantastic opening. 3, 2, 1, let's go. It's such a great song. It's such a great song. It's so cool. That opening, and that was one of the things that I did like about the live action show. We could talk about that. I feel like canceling it at the end of the first season felt a bit hasty to
That's
me.
what Netflix does.
I didn't love the show. Did you watch the live action one?
I was unaware that there was a live action one. I just knew about Death Note and Fullmetal Alchemist ones. Which were both terrible.
Yeah,
they're both terrible.
They're movies. The Cowboy Bebop was a show, and I have my quarrels with it. But one of the things they definitely did great was get the vibe and do the intro really well. And I was like, oh, this is cool. This is Cowboy Bebop. And I wish they had more time to explore this, because I also think the actors did a great job.
So, but as I was saying when you cut me off, is that the SAO theme song. So how I watched SAO was I watched it all in a single night. The whole first season.
You could do that, yeah.
It was 24 episodes, so about 12 hours ish of content, maybe 8 to 12 hours, because they're 20 to 30 minutes. And
take a pee break in between.
Yeah, need to.
And it was during the summer before college. It was 2 days before we went to the day before we were gonna go to our aunt's, because we lived with her during university. And I was up till like 3-4 in the morning.
Just on that.
Yeah, well, because I spent that whole summer, my sleep schedule was messed up.
Sure. Yeah.
But it just just hearing that song reminds me of that summer and like that last night of like freedom as a child, because going to college was kind of like you're becoming an adult, you're becoming more responsible for yourself and everything. And it just reminds me of like my last night of freedom. My last night where I could stay up to 4 a.m. with no consequences.
Those days are gone.
But yeah, and then like the last episode, I remember because I think I was watching it on like Crunchyroll or something, but the last episode hadn't been released yet on that site or whatever that I was watching it on, so I had to go find it on YouTube. I was like, no, I have to finish it. I like looked it up. There are 24 episodes. I was like, I only watched 30. But yeah, so just hearing that opening always just makes me think of that day, and like those were good times. We were in the rental home at the time. Like, so not everything was great because we were in the rental home, but I mean, it was the last taste of freedom.
You know what? Anime opening always gets me happy. The first one for Fairy Tail. Do you remember that one?
I don't remember how it goes.
I don't know if I could sing it, but it's... No, that is the fourth Naruto. It's like...
Yura to.
No, that's the ninth one for Naruto. That was the last Naruto opening, which is great. But no, the first Fairy Tail opening always gets me. It's called Snow Fairy or something like that. It's a really pretty song.
God, there's one something about. Okay, so intros. Bleach has like the third intro into it. I don't know who sings it, but for the most part, it's always been like a guy singing it. The third one comes in with like this female rocker girl singing it, and it shows whatever the Orihime, is that the ginger girl?
Yep.
It just shows her like lip syncing through it all, and I was like, this is going so hard. It's so cool.
Dude, the openings for Bleach were always so weird, but so cool. Like, there's one, I don't know what the song was, but I just remember it was Ichigo. Like, it starts off with Ichigo and his Bankai, like, in the desert or whatever, probably Hekamundo, and it's like, bow, down, down. It just these, like, sick bass chords. Bow, down, down. And then it just breaks down. It's like, whoa, this song is so cool. And it was just, like, super, like, kind of hazy, like, kind of graphicsy, like, kind of glitchy thing. And it's such a cool... They always had such weird openings, but, like, man, Bleach was good when it was good, and it was bad when it was bad.
As most things.
Yeah. Real hit or miss, but I have a soft place in my heart for Bleach.
What about holiday movies. Do you guys have nostalgia for holiday movies? Like this, seeing the Grinch Stole Christmas?
Not really.
No.
We never really watched holiday movies.
Really?
Yeah. Grinch was like the most, like the animated one.
The animated one was.
I hate Elf.
I love Elf. I think it's a funny movie.
Well, you don't like the fact that he puts a lot of sugar in his pasta?
Santa!
First of all, no.
I know him. I know him.
And it's not like I hate it because it's a bad movie. I hate it because every time since that movie came out in school, if you were gonna watch a Christmas movie, everybody wanted Elf. I just got so sick of Elf.
Because it's a great movie.
I get that. In middle school, for whatever reason, every middle school teacher had the movie Holes. Do you guys remember?
I remember Holes. That's nostalgia.
Shia LaBeouf.
That's nostalgia for sure.
Oh, geez.
For us, I feel like
legendary cannibal Shia LaBeouf. Have you guys seen that music video?
Yeah.
No.
I'll show you later. It's a whole journey.
Okay.
There's a part in it where there's this one kid who sings a verse and it's everything.
That's
I'll
awesome.
show you later.
Oh, you please do. But no, I feel like teachers I remember didn't have Holes. It was Napoleon Dynamite. That was like
I never saw that at school.
I saw that in 7th grade in Terra Nova.
I just know when that came out, everyone's like, "Gosh!" And
Gosh.
Yeah, that was a whole thing, and I got
like,
so
what, vote for Pedro or whatever?
Yeah, vote for Pedro. Yeah.
That movie was such like a cult classic of its time, and like I feel like that's one of the first movies like of our generation that really like shaped pop culture in a weird way.
Yeah,
I remember seeing it for the most part at Timmy's house.
Really?
First Timmy.
First Timmy, yeah.
I don't want to say last names.
Yeah, no, I got you.
Timmy G. You know, compared to Timmy T. Timmy Turner.
Yeah,
We were besties with Timmy Turner.
Timmy Turner and Timmy Jerner. Yep.
Timmy Turner.
Wouldn't it be like Gerner?
Sure.
It depends how you pronounce
It
it.
depends on the origin.
Because Gerner would be like a J.
It could be, but it could be a G.
It depends on the origin of the word.
Garage.
Welcome to the spelling bee.
Garage.
Jirachi.
Gerard Way. Gerard is a
Speaking of nostalgia and Jirachi, aka Pokemon, that first Pokemon movie, the one with like Pikachu and Mewtwo and the ears.
Where Ash dies and then Pikachu cries him back to life.
Yeah, but the only thing I remember when you said that, all I can think of was the scene, and this is an old movie, so there's spoil. If you haven't watched it, watch it.
I mean, it's like
there's no spoiler
almost 30
alerts
years
if it's
old.
over like 5 years old.
Sure.
Over a year old, I mean.
We were talking about Star Wars being spoiler
But the
alerts.
only thing that
No,
I
I
remember
said no.
from he did say no. But the only thing that I remember from the Pokemon movie is just the constant slapping of Pikachu versus Pikachu. He's like, bah,
oh,
bah. And it's
but
such
that
a
was
heart-
so sad because
it's
they
such
were
a
like
heart-
exhausted.
It's
and
so
then, like,
heart wrenching. But in my head, I'm just thinking, I was like, it's just Pikachu slapping.
I mean, that was such a weird thing about the movie, though, right? The clone Pokemon,
Yeah.
and the whole conversation around like what is a being.
And then I don't know if you guys were the same, because that came around before the second generation of Pokemon came out. It was like, oh, we're gonna have clone Pokemon now. They all have like these dark markings on them. I thought it was gonna be so cool. Now they didn't do that.
That's the funny thing about the Pokemon movies is they always introduce really neat concepts, like the Shadow Lugia or whatever, that
And
just nothing ever becomes of them.
They do
they
it on
brought
the off-brand.
Shadow Lugia into Pokemon Go.
No, but it's not the same thing. Like the alternate colored Lugia that was like all black and gray or whatever.
They do it in like the off-brand Pokemon, like the Pokemon
Colosseum and stuff. Yeah. But those are again like great games, but like offshoot games, but not like in like the mainstream stuff that could have been really interesting.
Something about all those like non mainline games, they always have one character who has like a jazz song for whatever reason.
Well, yeah, you need jazz.
Yeah, and everything.
Also, speaking of Pokemon, do you remember like that Pokemon Vacation movie?
The one where they're just all like happy around and
Yeah, it's
subtitles.
just Pokemon only.
Yeah.
What I remember when you mentioned the first Pokemon movie is the little short that was before the Pokemon movie, where it's all like Ash and Brock and Misty's Pokemon hanging out, and Charizard gets its head stuck in the house or whatever, and they have to pull him out.
Yeah, I was saying that's what he's talking about.
Oh yeah, okay. I didn't know what it was called, but I just always remember watching that
I
short.
don't know what it's called, but that sounds right.
Yeah.
I wish they did more of that stuff. But that again relates back to Legend of Zelda in a franchise that I think did well with addressing nostalgia. but also as time goes on, innovating. Like you have the mainline games that are mostly the same, although I do think that there are times that they've done good with innovating stuff, and I think that they've been trying new things. Even though if you look at the quality with like Scarlet and Violet, the newest Pokemon games, and like Breath of the Wild, the newest Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, I wish they put more time into Scarlet and Violet. I was very disappointing. But again, they're trying new things. They made an open world. They're doing the raids in that and in Sword and Shield. So they're adding features to it, so it's not just the same thing, right? In Sun and Moon, they got rid of gyms and then did gym-esque things with the trials and stuff, which is still similar. You do a puzzle. I did not play Sun and Moon. I only played it once because they went too far with the new, and they put way too much dialogue and unskippable cutscenes, and it was an absolute nightmare.
I got bored with it so fast. It's the only game I haven't played.
It's the only game I've only played once.
I remember talking to.
Have you played Violet twice already?
No. I guess the second one I only played once.
I remember talking to one of my friends about Sun and Moon and how, like, yeah, this is the end of Pokemon because they got rid of gyms. Like, they're not going to make another Pokemon out of this. Like, shut up. Yeah. Of course they're going to make another Pokemon. It's like, no.
If people bought this one, there's going to be another one.
Well, and the trials were basically gyms. Like, it was like a puzzle thing, and then you fight a boss. Which is the same thing. The gym is just not in the same structure.
And that is the thing that I kept arguing with him. It's like, it's the same thing. It's just called something different.
Yes.
Like, they're literally doing the same formula. Like, there's nothing that has changed behind it. It's like, no, it's different. It's a whole trial thing. It's the exact same thing.
I mean, I honestly...
Were there 8 trials?
There were.
There were. I honestly don't remember them because I only played it once. Because it was also so hand-holdy. Like, literally, you would be walking...
Ever since the Rotom decks, it's been very hand-holdy.
Decks, but it was like, you have to go here, come to this spot. And if you try veering off, it's like, no, don't go over there, come over here. And it just, for the whole like first half of the game, it's directing you where to go. And I'm like, this is not a Pokemon game. Pokemon games, you go through some dialogue, professor gives you a Pokemon, and then you just freaking go, dude. Mm-hmm. And you gotta figure out where you go from here, where can I go, where can't I go, and it's kind of linear, right? Because
but they've always had a lot of things like that do block you, like, you know, the Snorlax, and you need the Poke Flute,
right?
Sure, or like somebody that's like, oh, you can't go here, you need to go talk to that person, but it didn't feel as obstructive.
But it wasn't literally you can't go anywhere else. You have to go walk to this spot and talk to this person right now. You can't go back, you can't go forward, you can't go to this side, you have to go here and talk to them right now.
But what I will say in regards to that is I think they went in the opposite direction with Scarlet and Violet, just because they let you go wherever you want, which is cool, but the game didn't scale appropriately with you.
Yes.
So if you wanted to go do the gyms first, and then you wanted to do like the
bosses,
the
team
the bosses or the team star, like if you did all the gyms, you were too strong for most of those people, and if you try to do them all together, you would level up too fast for all the things. Yeah. And I wish they would kind of put in a mechanic for like all 17, because I think there's 17 in total. It was like 8 gyms, 5 Team Star, and 4
the boss Pokemon.
Of the boss Pokemon.
Yeah. I think there was more Team Star. There might have been like 6.
But
5 or 6.
Anyway.
But yeah.
I wish they had kind of created like a back end kind of system on the scale of like 1 to 19. And it's like, oh, once you cross this threshold, or like once you've done like 2 or 3, everybody gets an extra Pokemon, and like tiers like that. And then also like if you're tier 1, 2, in whatever order you go in, these are the levels of your Pokemon. Yes. So it would have required like a bit more work, but I think it would have scaled a lot better in long term, just because I do remember getting kind of bored of being like, okay, this is too easy, but if I do this one first, it's too hard.
Yes.
And so there was a proper way to go throughout the game, even though it's like, at the start, it's like, go right if you want to battle the big Pokemon, go left if you want to go to the gym, and it's like, okay, well, there's a way they want me to do this, and there's also a way that's, like, more fun because it's challenging. Mm-hmm. And then there's just, if you do it however you want, it's going to be really hard at one point and then really easy at another point, and it just didn't scale well. But, like, I commend them for breaking the mold and doing that, because maybe next time they'll be like, okay, like, let's build on that.
I don't know, because there was another thing that we were complaining about. It's a small feature that, I guess not a small feature, but it's a big thing that a lot of people do in the community, which is shiny hunting. And you say like in Legends of Arceus, there was like a whole indicator with an open world that shows like, hey, there's a shiny nearby, and they took that out in Scarlet and Violet.
I don't know if they took it out. I think they were working on the game simultaneously. And for some reason, they didn't think to put that in this one.
Which is a huge thing. Finish your game, people, before you release it. If you have to postpone it, that's fine. But don't, like, because we played it the first day, Scarlet and Violet. We all got together. There was like 6 of us. Mm-hmm. We all sat down.
Someone got a shiny immediately. And
we all played it. And it was fun to do that.
I didn't get a shiny until I caught every single Pokemon.
It was
fun.
By
that time, everyone caught like 3.
Yeah, it was fun to do that, but it was so buggy. It was so buggy, and it's like this 5 years ago would not have been done. Like, Sword and Shield was not buggy when it was released. Arceus was not buggy when it was released. I mean, there's going to be bugs here and there, and I think one of the cool things of everything kind of being online is if something is broken, you can fix it. Mm-hmm. But what that has done is, not just in AAA games and stuff and on consoles, but kind of ubiquitously in the gaming community now, there's this mentality that, I can release a half-finished game so I can get the money for it and then just patch it as I go. And I think that's a terrible business model because that ruins the game up front, so then people don't want to go back and play it again.
Part of the thing is, though, I mean, first of all, they could run out of budget, right? And then they need to release the...
It's Game Freak! And Nintendo.
Projects still have specific budgets.
Yeah, but look at Tears of the Kingdom. Look at Tears of the Kingdom. They spent the last 6 years working on that, and it's great. And with or Scarlet and Violet, they just like push
I'm not saying that that's okay. I'm talking from I work in software development perspective, so I see more of like the what goes. I mean, we release accidental bugs all the time.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like, bugs are going to happen, that's fine. But I think that companies know that their product is not up to snuff, and they're like, we're just going to release it, and then we'll fix it later.
I mean, I don't think they always know about all the bugs. I think also QA needs to be better in a lot of companies.
I mean, the wild west of the olden days where games just out and you deal with it.
But that was the thing with the old days, is if you put a game out, it had to be the best it could be because there was no going back and fixing it.
Yeah, but that didn't help anyone sometimes either. There were some things that came out really glitchy, which honestly for me brings back a whole level of like
nostalgia.
Yeah. Well, and what I'm saying is, like, I'm not expecting games to be perfect, right? That's unattainable in any capacity. But, like, with Scarlet and Violet, like, the graphics were ridiculous when we started playing. There's glitches all over the place.
I don't remember these glitches like you do.
Maybe it was just mine was glitchier, but, like, the movement was
Scarlet
glitchier.
wasn't glitchy. Shout out to Scarlet.
Pokemon would just, like, appear and disappear. The graphics would get all warped.
There'd be random Pokeballs everywhere that didn't actually exist.
Yeah, like, it was weird. It was not... And I feel like those bugs should not have existed.
I didn't have that many problems. I mean, the thing is also in testing, like, you can't test the exact scenario that your users... I mean, because our Switches are pretty old at this point.
That's true.
They might not be testing on an original Switch for whatever reason. They should. But they could be testing on the newest one with the best hardware and all that stuff. And then also, I mean, there's just a lot of things that users do with the system that aren't the intended way of doing it. Like all the cloning glitches. I guarantee you their QA team is not attempting the box switches and all that.
That is an example of a glitch that I think relates to what Josh was talking about, nostalgic glitches in old games. And that's fine, right? Like, because they're not going to test every little thing and go up, go down, see, and do button codes in a particular order to see if it's going to break something. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about just basic use...
Graphical
stuff that is buggy and should not.
See, I didn't see most of those, and most of the glitches for that game I did know were similar to like cloning or duplication or stuff like that.
But I do wanna echo.
I personally love those glitches.
Same.
They make things easier.
The cloning
and stuff. It makes things easier. Like, I think it was Diamond and Pearl remakes. I was
disappointing.
Yeah.
But like he would get a Magby with the Magmarizer, and I would get an Elekid Electrizer, and then we would clone the Pokemon and just trade it, because finding one of those at the item was hard enough.
Yeah.
I just wanted to complete my decks. I didn't want to go spend hours there and help him complete his, and that would have been a pain. And I mean, yeah, I could have just traded to him back and forth for the decks, but we also wanted our own. So, I mean, I like it for stuff like that, or like even just cloning like Master Balls or Candy or whatever.
Just a little thing.
Or like the experience share. I think that's what we used it for.
I used it for the
Lucky Egg.
Lucky Egg. Yeah, that's.
But that is a funny point too, right? It's like I love the bugs where I can cheat the system and not play the game appropriately, which is fine. And like,
well,
it's
I
fun,
feel like
but again, those aren't the bugs that I'm talking about.
Yeah, because that falls under, it's like the only thing, like speedrunners love glitches.
Yeah.
Anything in a speedrunning community is like, oh, how can I clip through this? How can I figure out some stuff about speedrunners?
See, but like I saw this one thing the other day that's like, if I watch somebody speedrun, I don't want to watch and find out how many glitches and bugs they can use to get through the game as fast. I want to see how fast you can do the game as it's intended.
Yeah, but that's not what the community has evolved into.
But I feel like that's a lot cooler though. Like, how fast can you get through Pokemon doing everything you're supposed to?
Right, I agree.
Instead of like,
there's a whole thing with
hacking the map and not needing surf and just flying over whatever.
Yeah, 100%. There's a whole thing in like when Tears of the Kingdom came out where like someone already had like finished the game. The speed run, you know how long it took for someone to finish it?
5 seconds.
No. It's a little bit more reasonable.
20 minutes.
It did take 20 minutes.
Really?
Yeah. It took 20 minutes just to finish the whole game.
But see, to me, and like, I respect people who like that, right? If that's your thing, that's how you like to play games, like, freaking go for it. There are so many ways to play games, and I love that there are so many different facets of it. To me, though, I'm the exact opposite. I like taking my time. I like exploring the world. I like seeing what there is to see.
But you get your money's worth.
Especially with games like Tears of the Kingdom, or even Scarlet and Violet. Like, I love open world games. I want to talk about video games at one point, but this could be a whole other thing.
Mm-hmm.
But like,
next time.
Yeah, but I love stuff like that, so I want to explore and I want to see everything, and I want to get all the items because I love collecting things too, and like, so to me that's just not how I would play games.
Stuff.
Because it kind of defeats the whole.
There's no time limit, but
it kind of defeats the whole purpose of the game. Then, if you're just gonna glitch to the end just to say like, "Oh, I beat Pokemon Red version in 4.5 seconds," it's like that's cool. And if that's what you want to do, like, great. I'm not gonna tell you how to play your game. But for me, I'm just like, that's neat, but like, I want to play it. I want to play the game, you know?
So nostalgia.
Yeah, nostalgia.
This was like a multi-topic episode.
Yeah, it was.
Like, we went all over the place.
Listen, it's bringing back old memories of stuff.
It is. I mean, it's all relevant, I feel like.
In some way or form. Yeah.
Next time we talk about video games, I want to piggyback on what you were saying about Scarlet and Violet, though, because I agree wholeheartedly with what you were saying.
What's your favorite way to consume nostalgia?
What do you mean?
I guess I don't know, because I don't, like I said, like I don't I guess TV, but it's not for nostalgia. It's more of like I put on stuff I've seen before in the background.
Oh, sure.
Just to have in the background, but that's not from a nostalgic perspective. It's from I don't have to pay attention and I know I like this perspective.
Well, I mean, like, do you like any of the TV shows reboots that have been done? Like, we've been watching the new iCarly.
I don't watch reboots.
Season 3, very good at branching out finally from like getting back to the roots of the story. I will spoil this because I don't care. And
spoiler alert if you like iCarly.
Because Nickelodeon already released a specific clip on Paramount Plus on YouTube and stuff, and people have been talking about it. It's been a couple weeks, so if you actually care,
I might know this
by the time this comes out. But Freddie and Carly finally get together.
I saw.
But the way that it happens was like very like genuine and real, and it felt like back to kind of like the old iCarly, because now it just kind of feels like they're doing it to hit on the nostalgia, like, oh, we're iCarly, but like it feels very different at the same time. But this felt like a moment that could have been back then, and it was so like just like pure and beautiful.
Yeah.
And he was crying.
I was crying.
I mean, I get that, but to me, I don't care about that. Like, I don't care about reunions of casts from old shows. Like, Friends reunion, I don't care. I saw most of Friends. It's a great show. I have nothing against it. I don't really care, though. Like, reunion stuff, like, any kind of that stuff, it's just, I don't care.
I just like, if you're gonna do nostalgia for something, I do want you to add to the story. Like, we're not just doing this for the cash or because we don't have any other ideas or we want to do something. Like, it should add to what the original show was about.
Yeah.
And the original show was heavily about Carly and Freddie and their relationship. I want Sam to show up at some point. Like, if they get married, I would love it if she just, like,
officiated,
had a cameo in some capacity.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that would really bring things full circle. But,
I hope she officiates it.
Yeah, I mean, and I respect Jeanette McCurdy and not wanting to continue in that, but I would hope that the environment for the Paramount Plus show for the reboot is so much better that she would be willing to come back for,
at least that episode.
A single episode
Yeah.
just to complete, like, as a viewer, that's what I want.
That would hit all the points of the
everything would be hit, everything, we'd all be happy, whatever.
And it's the show, and everyone's like, that's it, that's all we need.
Yeah, we didn't need any more.
Yeah.
I respect that, and if that happens, I appreciate that, but I'm not going to watch it. I'm going to hear it from you two, and I'm going to be like, that's awesome, and I'm going to move on with my day. Because, like, I don't. You don't like... I guess my nostalgia would come from music and from listening to older songs.
Sure.
And songs that I grew up with. Like, freaking lately, I've been listening to Nickelback. Just because, like, I remember listening to Nickelback. And I'm like... Why do people hate Nickelback? Like, Nickelback's kind of a good band. Like, there's some freaking bangers they got there. But, like, we could do a music part 2 and talk about it.
Is Nickelback the one who did Look at This Graph?
Look at this photograph.
But yeah, it was
every time.
And that's not a bad song. Like, they have so many catchy songs.
They have good songs.
Like, How You Remind Me is a great... I can go into karaoke for that any day. Like,
I really
am. This is how you remind me of what I really am. Yeah. No, you can't keep going. No, you can't keep going. But yeah, like, they're good. And I'm like, wow, I remember, like, listening to these songs on the radio and, like, hearing in, like, Nickelback's a whole other conversation.
So what's your favorite form of
I would say
nostalgia?
music is my
favorite form of nostalgia.
Is it TV shows? Is it movies? Is it music? Is it, like, food?
Video games?
Is it video games?
Wow, we did start this conversation off with food, didn't we? We got way far away from that.
It was nostalgia food. That's what I was going off.
So
wow, we totally
what's your favorite form?
A favorite form? I would say probably be video games. Because there's nothing like a good old fashioned, like... Because I love that the Nintendo Switch has, like, a bunch of emulators for, like, the older 64 games and all that.
I wish you didn't have to pay for the game.
Same. But I just remember playing those games, and there's, like, Mario 64 that just hits home. There's, like, the second level of the whole 64 game is, like, the snow level. Yeah. And every time I go into that level, I'm just like, this reminds me of Tres Leches cake.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, because that's what I would say my second one is video games and, like, replaying old games. But, like, I don't really do that. Like, there's a few games that I've replayed. Like, the Knights of the Old Republic games I've played several times in the last few years because I love those games. And, like, some Star Wars games. And, like, I played through, like, most of Heart Gold on the emulator because I love that game and the Johto games. And I hope they do a Let's Go Johto because I think it would be great. And I love Let's Go Eevee. But I don't, like, I appreciate and I'll see games. I'm like, oh, that's so cool. But, like, I don't really want to go back and play them, you know?
Sure, they're stuck in your memories as something.
Yeah, and I love it and I appreciate it.
You don't want to taint it.
I was going to say taint, but I don't want to use the word taint, but yes.
Why? That's an appropriate word.
Taint.
Tainted.
But yeah. No. Yeah, you don't want to ruin your good memories.
Tainted love, I want to.
It's like the people.
Get away.
The people who.
Run away. I'm sorry.
It's like the people who redid Finding Nemo with Finding Dory.
Oh yeah, I didn't watch it.
It was not necessary.
Couldn't care a lot.
Or Cars and Planes.
Yeah, they
Also
just do all. They're trying to hit people with like these old school things and not adding on to it. Like I said, Incredibles 2, great movie.
Incredibles 2 is a good movie.
Could they have put more Edna Mode on it? Obviously.
I kind of wish they would have done like a
side thing.
No, like a
Spin-off?
like a real time progression. So like it took place like what 10, 20 years later, and I wish they would have done that in the story and seen the older version instead of it picking up where it left off.
Because they set it up for something.
They really did.
If they didn't address that in some way, I think it would have been weird.
Which is fine if they would have started off that way and then time skipped.
Yeah.
I would have liked that, but I still liked the movie and I thought it was really fun and it was really cool to see the role reversals of mom and dad. And like, it's a good movie. I still think the first one is better, but I really did like the second one.
Listen, Incredibles 2 came out with one of the greatest scenes of just Edna and the baby, and Edna's just taking photos of the baby. It's like, yes, work it, you are tiny god. I was like, oh, love you, Edna.
Edna Mode is one of the best characters in Disney.
That's the only way I got him on the Incredicoaster. Is I was like, Edna will be there. No.
You can believe that if you want.
I was trying to make a joke.
Anyways.
It was funny.
So my...
Yes.
What's your nostalgia?
My favorite form is probably TV.
Yeah.
You
are the guy who watches shows over and over. And
I do love... I mean, we're watching Friends again.
Yeah.
Surprised.
I mean, it's just a good thing to fall asleep to, because you know it.
Yeah. You hit those
Although
scenes,
there was something...
like 7.
Pivot!
You don't know the 7 scene, do you?
I recognize it, but I can't recite it off like I can pivot.
It's
because I know I've seen that scene. I've seen all Friends, but
no,
I've watched it once.
There was one scene that happened the other day, and I'm like, I never knew that this happened.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Neither do I.
Okay. All right.
Like, I can't think of it right now, but when I saw it happening, I was like, this happened?
Yeah.
But, so, you know.
Ant-Man was in there.
Yeah, I remember
Paul
that. Paul Rudd was Phoebe's boyfriend / husband. But, I like rewatching shows. I do like a lot of the reboots when they add something. We tried watching the first episode of Fuller House together. Ryan hated it. I probably would have kept watching it for funsies, but...
What I have learned is I don't particularly care for sitcoms in general. They're not my favorite thing.
What about dramas? I guess they're all sitcoms in some way.
Like what?
No, sitcom is...
Sitcom is funny?
I would say...
Sitcom is a situational comedy.
My favorite...
That's what it stands for.
That makes sense. I never put that together. Listen.
You knew that, right?
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah. My favorite sitcom,
I never cared enough
though,
to put that together.
is New Girl. I love New Girl. I can watch New Girl on repeat. I have... That's the one that I've watched like 3 times or something like that. I do. I don't like the last season though.
No. It's just like Parks and Rec.
No bueno. Yeah.
First and last
Parks and Rec is great too. Parks and Rec is great. Community. Did we talk about this on here? First season is okay. 2 through 4 solid. 5 and 6 are garbage.
You guys are going like 2000s, like a sitcom. Meanwhile, I'm over here rewatching The Nanny over and over.
I mean, The Nanny. I remember.
But we watched it in the 2000s because it was on Nick at Night.
Yeah, Nick and so we watched The Nanny. We watched George Lopez.
That's where Friends was.
I never watched Friends until I was in high school.
We only saw random episodes.
But yeah, high school was on Nick at Night. Yeah.
I remember telling my friends, they're like, "Yeah, I just finished watching Friends." Like, oh, nice. This is your second time? It's like, that's my first time. It's like, what? And they were all just so surprised.
But and then I've recently been seeing like a lot of House clips on like YouTube Shorts and stuff. I'm just like, I love that show.
House is good.
It's never lupus.
Except when it is. It was one time.
One, just to really be like, oh shit.
But yeah, I like the reboots of TV shows. Like I want there to be.
Oh shit! It's lupus.
I want there to be the Ned's Declassified.
I would love that. I'm so upset that because I've heard them talk on their podcast. Like we have pitched this to Nick. That we have a great idea for Ned's Declassified, like adult survival guide or something, which would be amazing.
Well, and that plays off of nostalgia because it's something we all have fond memories of helping us survive through middle school and high school.
Yeah.
But now we're taking the idea and we're applying it to where we are now, which is adults.
It's such a great idea. And the fact that Nickelodeon is like, no,
but they're thinking about doing Victorious and Zoe 101.
Which no one cares about. Those aren't good. Those are just like iCarly, which is just like, oh, we're just going to bring this thing back because people liked it. And see if we could do something with it. But Ned's has like an actual perfect plan. Like, you couldn't make more. It's the Hercules of live action. It doesn't make more sense. It doesn't make more sense. You can't make more sense than that. And they're just like, no, but we're not going to allow you to sell it either because we're just going to keep it, but we're not going to do anything with it. It's like, you guys freaking suck, Nickelodeon. Make better choices.
Do better.
Well, and it's like, it reminds me of that video we were watching at Kevin and Jasmine's place. Where Nickelodeon makes bad choices.
Kevin and Jasmine.
Kevin and Jasmine. Where Nickelodeon was making bad choices with all their musical acts. Meanwhile, Disney's doing the same thing at the same time, and all of them are successful. Like Hannah Montana, Demi Lovato, like all these things. And then
all went crazy.
Nickelodeon has the Naked Brothers band, and
I forgot about that.
That was a thing.
And they had Ariana Grande, and they didn't do anything with her really.
She did it on her own.
Yeah, and she did it while working there and being on a show behind Victoria Justice, who is not on the same level as her vocally. But like they had all these things, and Victorious was great musically, but Nickelodeon did not do anything with their music. Like, so Nickelodeon, get your shit together because we all loved you.
Also, side note, because you said Hannah Montana, I saw that, I don't know if this is true or not, another thing that you see on the internet, who knows it's true, but that Miley Cyrus might be in talks to do the Super Bowl. And I saw a comment that's like, she's one synthetic wig away from making it the most watched show ever. And I'm like, yeah, because she's on stage by side. She puts on the wig and she's Hannah Montana or vice versa. That would be amazing.
I would love it if she did like Best of Both Worlds.
Yeah.
Talk about nostalgia, man.
Yeah, that would hit everything.
So Miley, if you're watching and if this is real, I think you know what to do.
First of all, we love you.
Love you. Honestly,
second of all,
I've listened to several podcasts with you, and you're very cool, and I like you a lot. So keep doing what you're doing. You're doing great, and I think you know what to do. I trust you.
And if you don't, go back a couple minutes because we told you.
Yeah, great idea. It's not my idea, but you can credit me if you like.
You don't have to credit us. Just do it, and we'll understand.
Yeah. But yeah, I thought.
And you know, maybe get us tickets.
I don't want to.
I don't want to go to Super Bowl, man. I mean, I'll go if you give me tickets. Like, whatever, I'll go. I don't care. I'm not gonna shun free tickets.
I mean, we'll show up for your show.
Yeah, true. We'll go to the Miley Cyrus concert.
There just happens to be a football game at the Miley Cyrus concert.
Yeah, that's what they said.
You gotta kill time.
That's what they say for most of them.
I feel like Beyonce's, though, didn't hit as much as people wanted it to.
No, but it hit with that great gif of her and that face, like.
Oh, the She-Hulk one.
The She-Hulk one, yeah.
I'm sure she did her best, and we all respect her anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Shout out to all you halftime performers. Mm-hmm. Best part of the show.
Honestly, though, because commercials don't hit as well anymore.
They don't.
That's the thing. I also don't watch Super Bowl commercials because I also don't care about commercials.
I always just watch them on like the YouTube clips
afterwards,
or like the kids react to Super Bowl commercials. Did
you
know?
Don't do that anymore.
Speaking of
kids
react and nostalgia.
Keep saying words.
Joe Beretta. I was trying to remember his name.
Beretta.
He works at React now.
Is he really?
He does.
Wow. He's a
SourceFed?
He was a YouTuber who did his own kind of sketch comedy, and then he was a host at SourceFed, Philip DeFranco's company, for a while, and then he left SourceFed, and then I guess he's doing.
What a hit of nostalgia!
That is nostalgia, man. Shout out to the old SourceFed crew. You guys were great.
You've inspired us.
Yeah,
that's true. I don't know you personally.
Steve,
I met Trisha that one time.
I met Trisha.
Pettis?
No, Trisha Hirschberger.
She has a different last name now because she's married. She's great.
Hirschberger.
We also saw her at the Ren Fair, but we didn't say hi to her. I saw her at the Ren Fair, but didn't say hi to her. Yeah, Trisha Hirschberger, Steve Zaragoza, Joe Beretta, Leanin. Who else was there? Raina Scully. Who else was there? Meg, whatever your last name was.
Turner?
Cosplayer. Yeah, that's one.
Meg Turner.
Meg Turner. I feel like there's more men.
Who was the girl? The blonde...
Lee Newton.
No. Danny?
Oh.
She was like a producer that would sometimes go on.
Yeah.
I liked her.
Yeah. Good crew you had there, Phil. Sorry it didn't work out. But
well, it did for a while until he sold it.
SourceFed Nerd was great. We loved it while it lasted.
But I think that's our time for today.
Yeah, so...
Alright, Josh, bring it on.
So, thank you everyone for watching and listening to us ramble about a bunch of things that gave us nostalgia back in the day.
We went off the rails.
And off the rails of all the stuff that can be improved on nostalgia. We will see you next time for our next episode, and we will see who's going to be the next king. Have a good one.
Of the Bee.
Bye!